Welcome to KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're telling the stories of Kansas City nonprofits and the people behind them. KC Cares is proudly sponsored by the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation. I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis. Did you know that 80% of households earning 30 to 50% of area median income, that's $24,800 to $41,350, are cost burdened? That means they're spending 50% or more of their income on housing alone. And research shows that families do better when they live in strong, supportive communities. So how do we manage that? How do we put that together? Well, there's an incredible organization in Kansas City known as the Urban Neighborhood Initiative. And we're honored today to be talking with Dianne Cleaver, who is the president and CEO of what I think is known as UNI. Dianne, it's so great to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me. And yes, we are known as UNI for Urban Neighborhood Initiative, but the way we also think of it as you and I.
Oh, I love that. That's terrific. Give us the basics. I will fess up that those were some statistical information coming from your organization. And when I was reading the background, it's shocking. Here we are in Kansas City, a great community, but there are those of us that are really facing difficulties. Tell us about UNI.
Well, UNI was established to work with targeted neighborhoods in the urban heart of our city, based on the framework of place, not just the theory, but the research-based fact that where you live, the environment in which you live, has a great determinative effect on your life outcomes. It's not absolute, but the chances that your life outcomes will be a certain way vary greatly based on where you live. People talk about zip code. You've heard that zip code, is destiny. It's not exactly destiny, but it's very hard for people who live in an area that has a lot of detriments. And so our organization is based on trying to establish a healthier place. So it's place-based, where we work toward a healthier physical environment and a healthier social environment within those. And there are 10 neighborhoods within our boundary areas. And those neighborhood organizations are our partners because they've been working on those things long before we came along, and they are the residents of those neighborhoods.
That's a huge task.
It is a huge task. And when we were established, we were officially established in 2012. The reason that the group of people around the table was kind of a committee or a task force, the reason that group decided to establish a new organization was in recognition of the fact that this was a long-term effort. It's not a 3-year initiative or a 5-year initiative. It is working to overcome decades, if not centuries, of disinvestment in certain neighborhoods. So we needed to be in it for the long term. And we know that to achieve the goals that we would like to achieve, it will take the long term. But we certainly are intent on making progress along the way.
So you're really young, you're new in terms of length of time, but not the problems that you're knocking the door at. Can you share with us a little bit how the organization came together?
Yes, certainly. In 2012, may have been even late 2011, you may recall that the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce did their Big 5 conversations, but the idea was to come up with 5 very impactful things that our city could work on long term. Because generally the chair of the chamber would have an area of interest that he or she wanted to focus on, and that would have a special focus during that year. Well, the chair at that time said we should have some things that we agree to work on longer term. So there were, scores of conversations and focus groups from people all over the city to determine what those things might be. And one of them was to address the issues of poverty and blight in the urban core of our city. At the same time, the United Way of Greater Kansas City had also convened a group of, civic and community leaders around a table based on a speaker they had about urban poverty to really talk about how can we address some of these things. So those two efforts came together. We became one of the Chamber's Big Five ideas, the Urban Neighborhood Initiative, in partnership with the Urban League. And many of those people who were initially around that conversation table became the initial board members.
So you have these big issues that have been around for a long, long time that you're trying to knock on the door and get that door open and make change. How are you going about that?
Well, it really took us a while to get off the ground. I became the first staff person. I was kind of like on that task force and became the first staff person. We had done planning with the neighborhoods, really a broad group of the neighborhoods and the community about what was most important to them and areas they wanted to focus on. So when I came on board, it really took a while to get the ball rolling and try to get a few programs and initiatives going. So like most organizations, we have evolved over time to think about, what are the most impactful ways we can approach this. As a small organization, we have 4 staff members and we have a few contract or part-time staff members as well, but we're very small. So we are very much coalition builders that try to bring people together around a table that are already working on things or that we could work with. And again, first and foremost, our neighborhoods themselves, our neighborhood organizations that we work through. So we're tackling it by, again, trying to build a healthier physical space and have come within that to focus a lot on policies that affect the urban core, particularly affordable housing has been a focus of the last, 3 years or so, and even more so now. And so the policies that affect that, we are also a community development corporation. So we are trying to get started actually doing some building ourselves and building and rehab. We have control of about more than 100 parcels in one of our neighborhoods where we're implementing a particular model called PurposeBuilt Communities. And so we are wanting to develop housing there. And our belief is in mixed income neighborhoods as being healthiest for everyone. You don't want to concentrate poverty, but you don't want to displace people of low income either. So how do you diversify the mix of income in those neighborhoods? So we have plans to build a 39-unit townhome within one of our neighborhoods, mixed income. And we're rehabbing a home, and on other properties that we own, we are looking to do further rehabilitation and actually some building once we put together the capital of new housing, because so much of the land that we have the option on is vacant. So you have to build new. And it's a real challenge to build new and keep it affordable. So we're doing that. We're working on policies, working with the city on some ordinances that might be passed that will help promote affordable housing, affordability, and the establishment of a housing trust fund, which in essence the city really already approved, but it's not capitalized. So our group, our coalition, it's not just us, but we're the coordinator of a coalition. We're working on making recommendations on how that might be capitalized. We're doing research on how other cities do it, because a lot of other cities have it. So those are examples of some of the things that we are doing. On the people side, we're working to connect people within neighborhoods. The real strength in the neighborhoods is the people that live in them. And they're great people that live in the neighborhoods, and to try to help elucidate what the assets are of the physical assets, but also the people assets in the neighborhood. And then how do we support the neighborhoods and helping those residents make connections? So because there's a lot that they can accomplish on their own. So it's kind of, the model is kind of asset-based community development, looking at the assets that are already in the community, elucidating them and trying to connect them in terms of people asset. So that's kind of a big picture of some of the things that we're working on.
You are working all over the place. I wanted to go back a moment because I think it's so interesting. You talk about people assets. How important is that to the work that you are doing in making this kind of shift in what some people would call urban core?
Yeah, I call it the urban heart of our city. It's critical, it's foundational. The residents of these neighborhoods, there are neighborhood leaders who have been working for a long time, other people who've just been working to improve their neighborhood for a long time. They are the foundation, they are the base, they're what's going to make this work in the future. So it's critical, and we just want to make sure that the neighborhoods recognize the assets, the people assets that they do have. There are skilled people, whether it is skilled in leadership and work in your neighborhood. You may not know that you've got a good carpenter in your neighborhood or a good barber in your neighborhood. And gosh, could more people in the neighborhood use the services of that people? You may have of those people. You may have people in the neighborhood who love to work with youth. Can you connect those people so that they might do a program or initiative or just activity with youth? So it's helping to identify those assets, and so that they can be connected, so that the neighbors' power can be further demonstrated.
We're going to take a quick break. We're talking with Dianne Cleaver with Urban Neighborhood Initiative, and we'll dig in a little more after this. We're back with Dianne Cleaver with Urban Neighborhood Initiative. You and I love that. Whoever came up with that whole idea, you and I think that's just brilliant branding. So kudos on that one. You were talking about, the people asset, and I understand that you and I really has kind of this global approach of healthy physical environment and healthy social environment. Can you share with us a little bit, what do you mean by that?
A healthy social environment.
Right. What does that mean? We hear about the physical, the buildings, getting rid of blight. Social environment, why is that important in housing?
Well, think about the social determinants of health, which we hear a lot about these days, and the fact that they have a bigger impact on a person's health than does even access to health care. So that is, the environment that you live in. Are there environmental toxins or pollutants in the area, mold or in the homes? That is crime in the neighborhood. That's part of the social environment. What is access to jobs like in the neighborhood? Are there any of those around? What are the educational opportunities in the neighborhood? Transportation. Is transportation access in the neighborhood good to get to where you need to go? All of these kinds of things are the social determinants of health. And if there aren't, jobs in the neighborhood or way to access jobs, if the educational opportunities are limited, then the social environment is such that it doesn't lead to good health outcomes. So, it's all of those things, plus just clean up. I guess that's more of the physical environment, but impacts the social environment as well when there's a lot of blight or litter in the neighborhood.
UNI has major initiatives, and I wanted to see if we can go through those. Vacant to vibrant, V2V. What does V2V mean?
Yeah, Vacant to Vibrant was an initiative we established in 2015 because there were so many vacant properties in our 10 neighborhoods, vacant structures and vacant parcels, vacant lots, more vacant lots than vacant structures. And it was a big concern for the neighborhoods. It was a big concern for law enforcement, for the city, because it leads to so many negative consequences. Crime tends to occur more when there are these vacancies, blight occurs more. So it was a big concern. A lot of people and organizations were working on it. We began to think, how can we have an impact in this area where people have been working? And we thought it was by trying to bring as many of those individuals and organizations that were working on it together. So we established a collective impact initiative, tried to get as many of those organizations and people as possible around a table to work on those things. And so that was Vacant to Vibrant. We kicked off with a conference in 2015, identified major barriers to repurposing or making those properties vacant, and then established an action group around each of those barriers. There were 5 of them, and we've since kind of collapsed it to 3 groups, but we're working to overcome the barriers to transforming those properties back to productivity.
The Phillips Collective, which is actually tied into something that's done across the United States, and I guess you all are the 15th PurposeBuilt Community. What's that?
Yeah, well, I touched on the PurposeBuilt Community in terms of saying we're implementing it in one neighborhood because the model is such that our 10 neighborhood area was too big. But it's a model that originated in Atlanta, where they, did this work in one community of Eastlake. And they were so successful that they got funding to provide technical assistance and support to other communities that wanted to implement the model. The model is based on 4 things. So it's based on building a healthy mixed income community, or breaking the intergenerational cycle of poverty by building a healthy mixed income community, which is part of our mission statement as well. And says you do that by doing 4 things: building a healthy educational pipeline, cradle to college, healthy mixed income housing, and then the other services and supports that a healthy neighborhood would have. Is there a grocery store? Is there green space? Is there a place to take a walk? Whatever services that neighborhood might be lacking that they need. And then kind of a quarterback organization to help stand all that up or make sure it happens, not necessarily do all of that, but try to ensure that it happens and coordinate that. So that's the model we're implementing in the Wenda Phillips neighborhood, chosen in part because it had probably the most vacancies, most vacant land of any of our neighborhoods. And there was also some educational opportunities, school partnership opportunities. So that's the model we're implementing there. That's where we're building the 39-unit townhomes and where we're rehabbing a home and where we have control of other parcels in that neighborhood.
We should mention to our audience that you can learn about all these things on a brand new website for UNI, which is uni-kc.org.
That's right. It's our updated website, which we keep updating. Well,
and that seems to be part of pandemic land, and we'll get to that in a minute. I want to keep us on the track of the third big bucket is the Kansas City Catalytic Redevelopment. So KC-CUR.
KC-CUR, Catalytic Urban Redevelopment Initiative, KC-CUR. This is a partnership initiative that was started with a partnership with the City of Kansas City, the Mid-America Regional Council, the Urban Land Institute, and LISC, the Local Investment Support Corporation, and UNI. And coming together of that group because each of them was working in one way or another toward the same goals. And the group, to our delight, decided to, for this initiative, have some focus within the urban neighborhood initiative boundaries. So this particular coming together of those, that impressive partnership is focused in the UNI. And on the ground, it's been more LISC and UNI that lead the day-to-day operations with the support of our other partners. But the idea there was, what do we need to do to catalyze major development within this area? So that we don't just have a project here or a project there, but what can be done that is really going to catalyze, a pipeline or major development. And so starting with a consultant study, it was recommended that we focus in 3 key areas that were most ripe for development. Because there were already stakeholders there was already some initiatives going, it was on a transportation line, like these areas best positioned to take off and impact the other areas. And those were around the 31st and Troost area, the 31st and Prospect area, and 39th Street between Paseo and Prospect. And to that focus area was added our purpose-built community because in Winter Phillips, because we were already focused there.
We know in the nonprofit sphere, we all want to do good work. We all want to shift the needle. We want to help improve in whatever area we're working. But also there's always that quote requirement, show me the money, show me the outcomes. I want to give you a couple of minutes here. Tell us about the great accomplishments thus far for UNI.
Yeah, well, I will say it has been challenging. And I have to say, we established a school, which was a big accomplishment as part of our purpose-built community, following the very successful school model in Atlanta. And that was in place for 3 years before, unfortunately, we had to close because we couldn't get the enrollment that we needed really to sustain it, because Kansas City, the district and charters have a lot more seats than students. And as a new school, we just couldn't break through. So that was disappointing, but we hope we did some good with the 3 years while we were there. So there are these plans to build the 39-unit townhomes. We have a very outstanding master plan that we have done with the Wendell Phillips neighborhood that we are now working with them on implementing some of the short-term strategies. It's a comprehensive plan where we got a planner to help us with that. We've had some policy impact, and this can get a little harder to describe, but we have the county initiated a pilot on getting clear title on properties, which was a real challenge with vacant properties. And that was based on our impetus. And that pilot, we're still waiting to see if it had the impact that we were looking for. But it was try to go upstream and see what the county and others could do to help make sure that when properties arrived in the land bank or were sold on the courthouse steps, that they had clear title. So we have worked on that. We're working now on an ordinance that actually we kind of revived that was about to fall off the docket, but because of our work on it for a couple of years, for a set aside for affordable housing. So any developer developing a property of 10 units or more, and that gets a city incentive, would have to set aside 20% of those units as affordable, so that would be a mixed income building. And that's going to be introduced. It's going to be heard next week, but we had a great deal to do with making sure that occurred. We've developed a guide to working with lots because there's so much green space that talks about installations that can be done and how to do them, green installations that have native plants and what will work here in Kansas City. We published that. We also again, a partnership. This is our Green Spaces and Urban Farms Action Group. Published a guide on how to start an urban farm. It's really, if you're already more interested in that, what it really takes. And that was with the community garden folks, because they had the knowledge, but we kind of, pulled it from them and put it to paper. We have established demonstration blocks in 4 of our neighborhoods where we are doing minor home repairs. And thanks to a grant from the H&R Block Foundation, H&R Block Corporation and Foundation, we will be able to expand that to all 10 of our neighborhoods over time. It's a couple of block areas. And in those blocks, that's where one of the places we're focused on building stronger connections between the folks in those blocks, for the social impact, and also doing minor home repairs, which are greatly, greatly needed. We could do use a lot more funds to do that. We have a partnership with Habitat for Humanity, and we just had our to build new homes on parcels that we control. And the plan is to build or rehab, mostly build 30 new homes over the next 2 to 3 years. And in partnership with them, we just had a groundbreaking on 4 of those homes. More of a ceremonial groundbreaking, but they're actually getting started now on 4 of those homes in the Wenda Phillips neighborhood. So those are just some of the things that I think of. We've done a kind of a plan, a revitalization scenario for the 31st and Troost area, where we pulled all the stakeholders we could together over a period of months. Again, we got another professional planner, did a revitalization scenario for that area, and came up with a list of about 20 strategies that would lead toward revitalization. And so are working toward that, but that was pulling the stakeholders together. We're in the process of establishing a community improvement district for the 31st and Troost area that beyond 31st and Troost, but Troost going up to Cleaver down to 22nd Street. That petition has just been given to the city. And so now we'll have to work to get the votes to get that passed. Those are some of the things that I think of.
Those are amazing. Is there a way for the general public to engage with you, volunteer? I would assume always donate financial funds, but tell us if that's part of what you all do or how we can help.
We do have volunteers opportunities. They're not like, we don't know exactly when they're going to be. Like we distributed, probably 1,000 bags of mask and hand sanitizers to our neighborhoods once COVID started. And we needed volunteer help to get those bagged up and to take them to, distribution points. But so we have that. People can work on some of our committees. People are interested in green spaces. That's a committee. We just had a Vacant to Vibrant summit, virtual summit via Zoom with a speaker talking about green spaces, so important to our neighborhoods, to our health, and to our environment. That's a committee. And then we have our Promoting Equitable Neighborhoods committee that is very focused on the policy issues right now in those ordinances that I talked about. And another one that's a little more technical, but it's on getting clear title. So those committees are volunteer opportunities. And then from time to time, we have other volunteer opportunities. We partner with our neighborhoods sometimes on a cleanup. And that is something that could take volunteers, or when we're doing some special event. We've had tours of our neighborhoods to show people all the great things in our neighborhoods that they weren't aware of. It really was eye-opening. And so if we do an event like that, again, that's where we could use volunteers when things like that come up.
It's Urban Neighborhood Initiative, UNI. Go to uni-kc.org. Dianne, I think you are the queen of collaboration and pulling people together. And it's so phenomenal. And Kansas City benefits greatly. Even in a pandemic, you're moving things forward. And we just encourage our audience to go check it out, learn more about this, and learn the great things that are happening to keep moving Kansas City forward with great leadership like yourself. We want to thank you for listening to KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by Charitable Communications, and we're proudly sponsored by the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation. If you'd like to be a guest on KC Cares or for underwriting opportunities, visit our website, which is kccaresonline.org, and spread the love. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at KC Cares Radio and on Instagram at KC Cares Online. Thank you for listening to KC Cares.